In a big win for Universal Studios, it sounds like Paramount is opening up its vaults and allowing Star Trek and Dungeons and Dragons to be added to Universal theme parks. Let's tell you how here on That Park Place. Hello, I am Jonas J. Campbell, an investigative reporter for That Park Place, and here with me is Bridge Officer Mr. VashSky. Vash, would you like the con on this one? No, I'm not going to give you the con, actually, because I'm too excited to talk about this one myself. But are you doing well today?
I am doing very well, and even better with this with these announcements coming out of Universal. This is cool. This is awesome. I am so giddy and excited.
I am too. I always like to hear about a new IP going into the theme parks. Well, what's new is actually something old over there for a Universal Studios announcement that just came out. Here's what we know. This out of the Discover Universal blog. I almost called it the Universal Parks blog. That would be confusing it for yet a different company again. Here's what we know about Universal Fan Fest nights at Universal Studios Hollywood. For those of you not paying attention at home, Universal Studios Hollywood is the one out there in California, not to be confused with Hollywood, Florida. Not Orlando is what I'm saying here. Look at that. Universal Fan Fest nights. There's that nice bright blue and that purple. It's almost like they're trying to evoke a different decade. If you're anything like me, you're a fan of being a fan. Who's saying this? It doesn't say at the top. Maybe it says at the bottom. Grace Perry, senior editor for Universal Studios Hollywood, is saying this. If you're anything like me, you're a fan of being a fan. There's nothing like coming together with other people just as geeky, passionate as I am about the movies, shows, books, and games I love. Fandoms take movies and turn them into real lived-in communities. It's exactly that kind of community that Universal Studios wants to nurture and celebrate in 2025. Well, that's refreshing. Interesting. Introducing Universal Fan Fest Nights. Did you get chills? I just got chills. Universal Fan Fest Nights is an after-hours event at Universal Studios Hollywood dedicated to sci-fi, fantasy, gaming, and anime. And at the risk of editorializing, you know what? I'll say it. I'm ridiculously stoked for Universal Fan Fest Nights. Here's what we can share about the event so far. Okay, before we get into that, Vash, this sounds geeky, and I like it.
This sounds very geeky, and I very much like it. Universal always on the cutting edge of really appeasing their fans, which, entertainment companies ought to do, and Universal does that in a great way, especially when it comes to Hollywood, because they know that there's a lot of locals that frequent that park. There's a lot of annual pass holders, and they want to make them feel special. I think this is great.
You know, what's funny is here, I see fantasy, that could be Harry Potter, which they already have the rights to use, even though that's over at Warner Brothers. Gaming with that could be Minecraft, which they are working on a Minecraft movie with Mr. Jack Black. Why do we know that they're well at work on that? Because there was a picture of Jack Black as Steve from Minecraft that people posted online, and then Universal did a copyright claim on it. Can't do that if you don't have the rights. And anime, that's one I haven't seen a lot of theme parks stateside get into. But let's talk about what's actually going into this event. Oh, look at this right here. On select evenings, guests will have access after regular park hours, so this is an after-hours event, to experience an array of immersive activations. Oh, I hate that word. Live entertainment, themed food and drink, and exclusive merchandise at Universal Studios Hollywood. Think of it like Halloween Horror Nights meets comic book / pop culture convention. And yes, there will be cosplay at Universal Fan Fest Nights. More details on that to come at a later date. So, okay, Vash, you probably know more about Halloween Horror Nights than I do. What is Halloween Horror Nights for the people who are not going to events like that?
I see. Halloween Horror Nights. So it's a special event done after park close, in which Universal likes to showcase maybe their darker and more adult side, right? So they set up a series of mazes all over the park and dotted actually within the studio lot, which is pretty cool. You actually get to see some behind the scenes stuff when you actually engage in that. And those mazes obviously are filled with scare actors in which, guests walk through. It's a lot of fun. Also, two scare actors create a new ambiance for the entire park itself. They have special live performances, shows, all dedicated to that event. It's been a huge, huge deal for many, many years now. So incorporating some of those aspects, maybe mazes, maybe custom, activations, as they call it,
Uh,
or set up props and so forth. This could be something that rivals, Disneyland nights, as we've been seeing those night events take place over there, celebrating Star Wars, Princess Night, all of that. I'm expecting from Universal, though, to take it up one step above, because we know that Halloween Horror Nights is a huge deal for them. If they're comparing this event to that, I would say the expectations have been raised.
Right, to the point where they're doing a Halloween Horror Nights Las Vegas experience that is going to be open all year round. This has been incredibly
Right.
popular for Universal Studios, and it's to the point where people will buy frequent fear passes in order to go back night after night. I don't know what they would do with something like this exactly, but comparing it to Halloween Horror Nights, even though I'm not necessarily a fan of that event, I get it. And it puts a good image in people's minds about what they're going to be doing. When is it? Spring of 2025. So not till next year. Tickets are not on sale. But here is the thing that I'm very interested in right here. Universal Fan Fest nights, left to right here, Back to the Future. They don't do a lot of Back to the Future stuff in the parks. They used to do Back to the Future stuff in the parks. Obviously, now there's the Mega Movie Parade, and they've got the Cinesational nighttime show. I'm not going to call it an activation that they do, where they go through some of the history of Universal there in a nighttime spectacular, including fireworks and drones and water shows and things like that. But right here, we haven't seen Star Trek in Universal Parks for a very long time. And this says to me that they are not just calling on fandoms of the past, and please, heaven help them if they decide to do like new Trek here. Guys, if you're going for classic Trek and Star Trek The Next Generation era Trek, this is a great idea.
Yep.
I think this is spectacular. And of course, Dungeons and Dragons over here on the right. That's one where there's a long history of things they can call back to here. Vash?
Yeah, like the live action movie.
Well, they could. I've heard the movie's good. I don't know. Right. Have you seen it?
I have not. The trailers looked interesting to me, but hey, if it's good, it's great. I do apologize. I was making a little.
I don't know. I haven't seen it either, but a lot of people that hate everything seem to like Dungeons and Dragons. So interesting to me that they would do this. Also, Star Trek and Dungeons and Dragons are Paramount properties. I should say Dungeons and Dragons is obviously Wizards of the Coast, but as far as film goes, Dungeons and Dragons was distributed by Paramount. Obviously, Star Trek is owned by Paramount and possibly Skydance sometime very soon here, unless the Paramount deal gets delayed yet again. I think this is a big deal for Universal right here, and it shows if we're following the trends here. Obviously, Ghostbusters is owned by Sony. Back to the Future, obviously Universal. Harry Potter is Warner Brothers. I think there's another studio that I'm leaving out here. Essentially, Men in Black is also Sony, even though it's a Marvel comic. So there's a question about who actually owns the rights to Men in Black. Does Disney actually own the rights to Men in Black? Anyways, Paramount, Warner Brothers, Sony, all of these companies willing to work with Universal. I think that this opens up a world of possibility for Universal. I don't know if this leads to a Star Trek ride somewhere down the line. I don't know if this leads to a Dungeons and Dragons land somewhere down the line. But I'm excited at the idea of these being in the parks in a Halloween Horror Nights level of activation in the parks. Hate that word.
Yeah, I do not like it as well. I will say probably the least impressive thing on this whole menu here. But is that the new Star Trek logo? Because if it is, that's
the new Star Trek logo. But the new Star Trek logo also represents the old stuff. So yeah, that is. But of course, if I'm wrong in the comments, Star Trek is known for having a fandom that is very eager to help you understand what you may have missed in your examination of Star Trek. For the old days.
A couple of things here. So we have seen partnerships with other brands and franchises and so forth for Halloween Horror Nights. I think, for example, like last year at Universal Studios Hollywood, they had Netflix's Stranger Things as one of the mazes, and Uncharted. So they have historically done some deals with some of the other studios, other franchise holders, IP holders, all that. But to activate it in this way, like you said, Jonas, I think this really is very, very exciting to bring that kind of level of quality that we expect from Halloween Horror Nights to maybe new experiences here. I think it's really, really cool. And we're hearing, Jonas, can we get into it a little bit of what we're hearing about Back to the Future?
Yeah, we need to be very vague, and this is just this is like so much salt. This is a truckload of salt right here.
Yeah.
We don't have any confirmation, but someone indicated that Back to the Future might be getting very nostalgic for what happened in Universal back in the day.
Right.
Maybe involving something that is doomed at the current parks. And that is all we're going to say about that. That is grain of salt. That is not an official rumor. That's something we heard and was so exciting that we thought we would very vaguely share. Anyways, let's talk a little bit here. They're showing that the Star Trek universe has taken the form of television shows, movies, video games, comic books, and more. So they're obviously pointing to a lot that you could draw on here. Back to the Future, the 80s blockbusters, was shot in part on the Universal backlot. Yes, of course it was. So they're going to celebrate it. And let's see, they're not really referencing any rides or attractions there, just the film itself. And then Dungeons and Dragons here says, get your 20-sided dice ready because your Dungeons and Dragons fantasies are about to come to life. Looking at this, they're also not referencing the film. And if you go over to the Universal Studios Hollywood website, they have a couple more details, not anything amazing. You can sign up on their website, and they do confirm that this is a separately ticketed event. So, Vash, are you going to go to this one?
If it's as good as advertised, I might actually find myself going. I did think about Jonas here. It's like, how can I actually make that happen? How can I make that possible? Universal Studios Hollywood has been doing some incredible stuff lately, and its future is so very much, very exciting. They had, I think, outside of maybe a little bit of an accent, I think they did have a successful honoring of their past with the celebration of the studio tour and its recent anniversary that it just celebrated right now. And they had, Back to the Future stuff back there. So, hey, could we possibly get, a nighttime version of that? Maybe a show in Courthouse Square? That would be cool. There's a lot of things, great things I can do, and I'm so incredibly excited to see what the entertainment department and what Universal Studios Hollywood themselves has in store for not just this event, but for its future, which is bright.
Yeah, I think that Universal does a good job of talking about not just current IPs, but also their history. This is something that they're doing a much better job of at Universal right now than they used to do, calling back to the old stuff. If you look at their tribute stores and things like that, it's much more of a celebration of movies in general than it has been. This little sandwich here, obviously, it started there back when they were competing with Michael Eisner's Disney MGM Studios, and now I think they're back to it again, and that's probably a good thing for all of them. No mention of a Fast and the Furious Fan Fest, though. I wonder if they just ran out of Fs. That being said, we want to throw this to our commenters. If you did show up to this event, who would you cosplay as? For some reason, they won't let me go as my current favorite captain due to societal norms right now. Can't go as Benjamin Sisko. Vash, who would you want to show up as?
Ooh, Universal lore, maybe a good old Marty McFly, maybe
I could picture you.
Doc Brown.
I could picture you dressed up as Marty McFly. If you show up as Marty McFly, I think I would have to go for the Doc Brown. Marty, everybody, like this video if you like this video, and stay tuned here if you want to hear more about this event as it gets closer, and consider subscribing to That Park Place for all the news that should be fun.
Thanks for watching That Park Place News. For more information, consider checking out www.thatparkplace.com. And don't forget to subscribe, share, like, and send this out on your favorite social media accounts.